Welcome back to AM Northwest. How much of what you've accomplished in your life is a result of hard work and determination? And how much of a role did chance and luck play? Here to share some surprising findings, we welcome the author of The Random Factor, sociologist Mark Rank. Good to have you with us, Mark.
Great to be with you, Helen.
Why study randomness? Because usually, sociologists kind of shy away from studying luck and chance.
Yeah, well, it was an earlier work of mine, a book on the American dream. And one of the things that I noticed when I interviewed people was that over and over, they would mention the role of luck and chance and how their lives played out. And I thought, that's really interesting, but really understudied in the social sciences. So that really got me down this road. And, it's just a fascinating subject.
You start out by talking about how luck has shaped human history. I mean, just the slightest bit of change in something could have changed the history of our world, really. So tell me more.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many examples of history could have gone a much different direction had not some chance or random event happened. Probably the most obvious one was the asteroid that hit us 66 million years ago and basically wiped out the dinosaurs and led to the rise of us and mammals. And, had that been just a few seconds one way or the other, you and I wouldn't be here right now. And that was just simply chance and randomness. So that's a really profound one. And there's many others that I talk about in the book.
Well, I like the one about Hitler. Tell me about Hitler.
Yeah, so Hitler as a youth, his desire was to get into art school in Vienna, and he got past the first round, but he got to the second round and they decided against it. But as you know, art is very subjective, and had that committee been on a different day, had it been a slightly different composition, he might very well have gotten into art school, and the history of the 20th century would have been much, much different. Another example was in 1939, there was a bomb that almost killed Hitler, but his speech was 12 minutes shorter than it normally would have been. And had that not happened, again, World War II and the Holocaust would have played out much differently.
Yeah, absolutely. How much does the random factor affect us? Like in what things? It affects where we live.
Yeah, I mean, it plays out in many different ways. And one of the ways I like to think about this is that there's certain currents that push our lives in certain directions. So things like social class and race and gender. But within those currents, there's a lot of ripples of randomness in terms of the specifics of our lives. So who your significant other is, where you live, the specific job that you're in, all of these have often been influenced by randomness and chance. I talk to a lot of people, and it's almost universal. People will say, well, my significant other that I met, it was chance. It was at a party. We happened to be there, or some other story like that. And so the specifics of our lives are really influenced by this role of chance and luck.
And how much we earn.
Absolutely. So, there's certainly our skills and our education and our talent, are all important in terms of our earnings, but there's also this really significant element of chance and luck. And so I mentioned several different studies in there that show that basically you might think of like people that really hit the top in terms of wealth and success. There needs to be a sort of a baseline of talent and skills, but those who really make it have gotten some lucky breaks.
Yeah.
Another great example of that is entertainers and musicians. Certainly to make it, you have to have talent, but there's so many people that are talented that never got that big break. And when you talk to sort of, for example, actors, they'll say, if I hadn't gotten that break early in my career, I wouldn't be where I am today. So talent and skills and all that is necessary, but it's not sufficient in terms of getting ahead.
Who we're born into, like what family we're born into, the wealth we're born into is also random chance for us. But do you find that sometimes the people who have reached the highest pinnacle of success sometimes say that it's based on their hard work and they pull themselves up by the bootstraps, when in fact that's not the case?
Absolutely. I mean, people say that all the time. They'll say things like, well, I make my own luck, that
Right.
kind of thing. And as Americans, this really kind of cuts against the grain of thinking about rugged individualism, and we do it on our own and we don't depend on others. Well, that's only part of the story. Another part of the story is this idea of chance and luck. And so the whole concept of meritocracy, this kind of cuts somewhat against that and says, you know what? there, but for the grace of God, may go you or I.
Right, absolutely. I love too the jobs because it seems to me like I love to see kids being introduced to all these different types of jobs because they may never have been exposed to it and may never go into something like that. That's the same kind of idea of randomness, picking the job you're in.
Yeah, it is. And just thinking about how you got your job, a lot of it may depend on your social networks,
Right.
who you know, who you ran into. You got this telephone, you got that telephone. There's just a tremendous amount of randomness, in terms of, as I said before, kind of the specific job that you wound up in. And and where we wind up in, the location and all of these kinds of things. Again, lots and lots of randomness involved.
Yeah. Oh, this is so interesting. Mark, we want to tell everyone the book again is titled The Random Factor. Mark Rank, thank you so much. Fascinating stuff.
Oh, thanks a lot, Helen. And don't forget to thank your lucky stars.
I will. I do all the time. We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.